They called him fragile, weak, a mistaken uniform. Cadet James O'Neill stood at attention as laughter rippled through the barracks, each word of mockery cutting deeper than the last. His chest rose and fell, but his eyes held stillness, an unspoken plea for dignity. The instructors, hardened by years of war, wrote him off as unfit. The verdict was whispered before the training was even over, dismissed. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. James carried his duffel bag with trembling hands, the weight heavier than any pack he'd borne in training. Dust swirled in the golden light of late afternoon, and with every step toward the gates, his heart echoed with the same cruel word he had overheard. Failure. He tried to convince himself. He didn't care that maybe they were right, but the truth gnawed at him. He had wanted nothing more than to serve, to prove himself. The other cadets' voices followed him, half mockery, half pity. He kept his gaze low, not wanting them to see the sting in his eyes. Yet one thought pulsed inside him like a drum. Beat. They never saw me fight. They never saw me hold on when others quit. Then came the sound. Heavy boots, striking pavement. A sudden stillness rippled through the crowd of cadets. The air itself seemed to tighten thick with the presence of authority. A Marine stepped forward, broad-shouldered, weathered, his uniform bearing scars of campaigns the others only read about. His voice, when it thundered across the yard, froze everyone in place. Iron Wolf, stand by. The word struck like lightning. Heads turned, murmurs spread. No one knew what the call meant, but they felt its power. James looked up, startled, his eyes locking with the Marines. He had never been called that before. Iron Wolf him. The Marine stare held no pity, no doubt, only recognition. You don't walk away today. Son, he said, his tone rough as gravel, yet steady as stone. I've seen eyes like yours before. They don't quit. They endure, and that is worth more than strength alone. Gasps rippled through the cadets. The instructors shifted uncomfortably. For the first time, James felt the air tilt in his favor. He wasn't invisible anymore, yet the moment carried a heavy weight. Was this defiance against the system? Should the word of one Marine outweigh the judgment of the academy? Whispers of tension swirled. Some believed discipline demanded his removal. Others, struck by the Marine's certainty, wondered if they had misjudged the boy. The Marine lifted his hand, signaling silence. War doesn't care about perfect form. It cares about heart that won't break. His words carried into the stillness, each syllable like a hammer on steel. And then in front of them all, he placed his hand firmly on James's shoulder. From this day you are Iron Wolf, and I will stand by that. The barracks, once filled with laughter at James's expense, erupted into something else entirely. Not cheers, not yet, but silence, the kind that acknowledged a shift, a recognition. Even those who had mocked him felt the gravity of what had just been spoken. James' chest swelled, not with arrogance, but with a fragile, burning hope he thought he'd never see. Dignity again. He was wrong. The Marine's presence turned the dismissal into redemption. One voice of belief outweighed 100 years. One hand of recognition rewrote destiny. Because courage isn't measured by applause or dismissal. It's measured by the fire that refuses to die, even when the world tries to snuff it out. And as the sun set behind the gates, the name Iron Wolf followed James O'Neill like a promise. Mockery had been silenced by honor. Weakness had been named strength. What began as an ending became a beginning. No one expected, because kindness doesn't vanish. It waits and it finds its way. back, and sometimes it roars loud enough for the whole world to hear. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us strength isn't always about power, but about standing tall when the world tries to bend.